So I'm going to introduce myself and my team that's here with us today. First, let me say thank you all for being here today. It's a pleasure to stand before you and an honor to share what we know as much as possible. I truly believe that everybody's an expert in their own right. So as we share, we do want to make sure, as Robin stated, that it's very interactive. Because I'm one of those people that like to keep people moving, awake, and we all just had lunch, so we need to stay awake, right? All righty. So I'm going to start off. My name is Benita Shaw. I'm a community education specialist at UC Davis Mine Institute. I do multiple things there. I'm grateful and blessed that through my job I can work out in the community. So I also on our State Council of Developmental Disabilities. I'm on their advisory committee. I'm also on a task force committee for DDS, which is Department of Developmental Services. Also a board member on Supportive Life Institute. DREDF. So I really grateful for my job that I'm able to be out there to continue to obtain those resources for our resource center at UC Davis Mine Institute that we can better serve our community, which is all of you. So it's a love that I have doing. And then I also have two sons. My youngest one is on the autism spectrum, so that also makes me part of that community that I understand a lot what parents are going through, especially from that young age and older. So from that being said, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Maribel Hernandez. I am the Community Outreach Specialist for the Center for the Excellence in Developmental Disabilities at Mine Institute. I'm also a mother. I have two adults on the spectrum, and I'm working hard on the Spanish conference in these days, and also we have a big project with the regional center that's a transition adult kit. So that's the things that we are doing now, and we have a lot more to share in this presentation. Welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Robin Stewart. I'm a clinical social worker at the Mine Institute, and I also have the privilege of working with these fine ladies in our resource center. We'll be talking actually about our family supports that we're offering through the resource center, as well as one of the projects that I'm working on, which is the Family Navigator program. So quick pause before we get started here. Just wanted to acknowledge that language matters. We are going to use the language that we are most comfortable with to speak about ourselves and our communities. You will hear person first and identity first language today. We're speaking to a large group, and we want to think about as many voices as we can here. And we will do our best to use respectful language that respects all people and all abilities and does not support an ableist viewpoint. I would invite everyone here to think back to when you and your family were first exploring services, or if you are a professional helping out families, when you were helping a family first explore services. What memories stand out for you during that time?
Just having a giant pile of papers that I'm sure said very helpful and important things, but it just felt like too much to sift through, and really needing someone to go through it with me and help me prioritize.
Overwhelmed and confused which direction to go, and there's so much, and how to pay for it. That's the other thing, is how do you get the resources and the cost of resources?
I remember not knowing where to start and not feeling like I had any support or understanding on what exactly I needed, as in like the resources and stuff like that, and just kind of feeling lost and kind of like I was just running around on a wild goose chase trying to reach out to different people and not knowing if I was reaching out to the correct people.
So what was most helpful for you during that time? So your advocate was most helpful for you. Excellent, excellent. So having somebody to guide you through the process and explain things. Okay. Pediatrician was helpful. Yeah, so connecting with those professionals. This is a snapshot of California's service system for individuals with neurodevelopmental disabilities. Complicated, right? And we're not going to go through each of these systems, but the take-home message from this image is that there are multiple service systems and very different service systems that families quickly need to learn how to interact with. All of these systems have their own eligibility process. All of these systems have their own funding process. And this is complicated and difficult to understand. And when you're in a position where you feel pressured to have to do it quickly, that's challenging, right? So looking at this really quickly across the top line, we have the regional center system. Sounds like many of you are familiar with that. That is the California State Developmental Disability System. We have education in there that comes into play halfway through early childhood. We've got the medical system, sometimes for diagnostic assessments, sometimes for various levels of care. Then resource centers, we have behavioral health for some folks. Further down, you see later in life, employment supports may come into play, as well as at the bottom there, you see advocacy and protection and other social services like in-home support services and SSI. So complicated, right? We also know that there are disparities across these systems with access. Disparities based on race and ethnicity, disparities based on language, and disparities based on income. And so if you have all of these things coming together along with this push for timely and early intervention services. So we do know, research has shown that early engagement in services does have better outcomes for both the family and the child in that family unit. When we get all these things put together, a lot of you have already made comments that having somebody help you guide through the system and understand the system and how to advocate within that system is really, really powerful. Kind of eases that load, eases that stress, and kind of walks you through. So today we're going to talk a little bit about one of those tools that we have, which is the Mind the Gap Peer Navigator program. And then we're going to talk through how that program is used at the Mind Institute, as well as some of our other services that and supports that we're offering at Mind. Okay? So if you'll kind of follow the train of thought here, we're going big picture down to the individual programs that we're offering. So we'll start with a little video here.
Hello, families, and welcome to the Mind the Gap program. If your child is waiting for a diagnosis or has been diagnosed with a developmental disability and has not started receiving services yet, the main goal of the Mind the Gap program is to help you and other families learn more about your child's diagnosis and get connected to services and supports that are important to you and your child. Mind the Gap is a program that offers 12 coaching sessions with a peer navigator over 4 to 6 months. The peer navigator is a parent or family member of a child with a disability who has been through the process of accessing services for their child. The peer navigators have received specific training in the Mind the Gap program and are here to support you. You and your peer navigator will schedule the coaching sessions on a day and time that is convenient for you and your family. You will also decide if you prefer the coaching visit to be a phone call, a video session like Zoom, or in person. The length of the coaching sessions will also vary based on what works best for you. During each of these coaching sessions, together, you and your peer navigator will identify your specific needs and set weekly goals. In addition to the support you will receive from a peer navigator, you will also have access to an online family resource finder with videos, materials, and several different types of resources. The Family Resource Finder has materials available to you across several topics. Some of those topics include navigating the system, communicating with providers, understanding challenging behavior, understanding your child's disability, and strategies to address stigma. Since there are a variety of resources available, it is important to make a plan. Together with your peer navigator, you will develop your weekly goals and decide which topics best meet your needs and goals. At the end of the program, you will receive access to all of the materials in the Family Resource Finder. This may seem like a lot of information, and you may be wondering what happens next. Don't worry. Your peer navigator will help you navigate this process and provide support to you throughout the Mind the Gap program. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about the Mind the Gap program. And if you decide to participate, you can reach out to the person or agency that shared this video with you and let them know you are ready to get started.
All right, you guys. So let me ask you guys really quick by the raise of hands, because I know me, my son is 23. How many of you think of seeing this would have been a phenomenal thing for you to have at the beginning of your start, to have that, right? Those of you who have, if you're younger ones in here, how many would you say right now and be like, oh, this would be a perfect thing that I would need right now? Yeah. So I'm going to go in and share part of that. I started off with this program when it was just a thought of an idea for the committee to do this. Well, that's the committee. It's a community of people. So I got to go from that start, and I was one of those peer parents, right? So I've had it was a phenomenal experience for me to share my experience in doing that with them, because it also brought into what I experienced, but yet to share with them how to navigate this system. And so one of my mottos as I get started is I always share with people, if I can help someone go through 5 doors instead of the 50 plus that I went through, I think that's a great thing to be able to do, because it truly was an obstacle to be able to do this. So I love this program as we kind of go forward and as I speak about in this particular area. Okay, so one of the things we have is for the Peer Navigator program is we dealt with community partners, and we had focus groups, and it was a pilot project. So this was kind of the beginning of what that started on what you just actually heard. So in the pilot project, there was a community of people, and we're not talking about like just parents. There were a community of services of people that were a part of this at the very beginning. If any of you, how many of you have been into the auditorium at the Mind Institute? So if you took that auditorium and made a huge circle, in that huge circle, every chair was filled of community partner and parents. That's how we initially started before it even became Mind the Gap when we were developing the names, right? So it's just really a phenomenal thing that we had going forward. Here it talks about the Mind the Gap, the program, and what it offers, right? So it offers kind of a multiple different things. So as you guys read, I'm also going to share from my experience also those things that it talks about. So I'm going to jump to the family focus of the resources. So you guys also, someone talked about resources and what have you. So me being that person, being able to do that, I had a multitude of different resources to share with those individuals, right? The training, we did extensive training. While I had a son who was older, the training that we did to be able to do that, we had that extensive training, we did role playing and what have you, and then a lot with having mandated people with us. We also had that thing if were unique situations that we had to encounter, which I did in helping I had a lot of young mothers who were just starting, who were struggling in different areas, right? Then we had consistent goals and coaching, right? And the biggest thing we also had, which was very important, that one of the mothers spoke about in the panel, is that caregiver and making sure you took care of that self-care, because in doing that, the parents were not doing that, right? So there were always a goal to make sure we had that. Then we to track the data and to talk about monitoring the family and service access, which was a big dilemma, because one of the things we talked about is to make sure it hit those underserved communities that were not receiving that, right? And so we have the coaching check-in where it was me implementing, helping to meet with them. I did it how often they wanted to meet with me, right? And so we did it either in the community or in their home, whatever they felt comfortable with, right? While I was, I have to be honest, and on camera, I was disobedient and not staying in the guidelines of letting my families go. So I kept some of them for over a year. But that's just me, because I felt in my heart that it needed a little bit more. So I kind of did that, which they also kind of knew, but you realize you guys all have the experience that you know the intensity that we have to go through, and to have someone to bounce it off that's already been there, for me, I would have kind of loved that. So that's kind of the gist of what it was in doing that, where you had a team of people that would kind of go out and speak to the families at first, right? But then as they came in and they handed them to a peer coach or peer navigator like I was, then we would take it from there to allow them to go through what they needed to go. And we did a multitude of different things that you can kind of imagine to help them persons feel supported, which is another reason why I love this, because I know for me, going in there on my own, having someone there that you can bounce it off, I just thought was phenomenal. And so this goes into talking about the peer navigation, building the trust. I think that was important because I realized a lot of parents that I was dealing with, one of the things we talked about is meeting them where they were, because they struggled with trust. I know that was a big thing for me, especially in my community and where I am, trusting people and their knowledge and what they know. So that was a big thing to happen. We also talked about supporting and how to better advocate for themselves, right? We all know that advocating is a big issue in itself, to be able to do that. And so having someone, if you're having to advocate for something or a request or what have you, you can help. I helped with letters. I helped with having them connect. And sometimes people didn't feel with either or, so we just walked through it all together. And then we talked about the services and access and the advocating skills, which you would think there would not necessarily be anything as far as advocating skills. But I always tell parents, for me, it's some things, it's the words and the verbiage that you use. My biggest thing is no was just meaning I'm going to go for a different door, to be totally honest with you. So I would teach those parents how to say certain verbiage or words to have access to get them to be able to either get an assessment or to whether they need to get a meeting. Those things are kind of important. So those are the things that I kind of help through this in developing goals, into linking to services, all of those different things that we struggle kind of in going forward. This gives a timeline, which again, I'm telling on myself, I struggled with the timeline. But it gives just a basic timeline. It was supposed to happen the first month, was supposed to happen in the second month, the third month, and 4 through 6. But if you think about this, and this is where my struggle was, we all know when you first get in, I think someone just spoke, all that information hitting, it was like, oh my God, this is just a freaking lot. So I'm just going to put it to the side and let it sit for a minute, right? Now take that and imagine I have all this stuff and you have someone who's going to walk through every bit of it with you. That's totally different than what I had, right? Because now you have someone who understands the verbiage, the alphabet soup that we do, A, P, I, E, S, P, D, D, E, F, G, whatever those things, right? You have someone who's explaining all that, that alphabetic soup that we do, right? And then you have someone that says, okay, this is what this says, this is not correct, and you kind of go back, right? So this is what that peer coach kind of did in this timeline. And for me, I wanted to go at the pace of that family, right? And as I know, we all know, in that process, it's just like, I just can't write today. I can't even do it tomorrow. Give me about a week. And I already went into this part where it talks about the role of the peer navigator, which was me. We assist the families in choosing. They talk about the different diagnoses, talk about how we can help and understand. One of the biggest thing is to help the parents to navigate different things. I had 2 of them that were really quite complex in a lot of different ways, and they were young mothers. Young mothers were just different and feel like it was just a lot overall. So mine was just a little more in depth and what have you. A lot of different ones where CPS was called and what have you, which was in a wrong type of light for them to be called. So I had to play a role in the position of speaking to that worker to say, hey, it's not what you think it is, right? I've been with this mom. By then I had been with her for 6 to 8 months, right? So her coming and crying out to me says, Benita, please help me because I feel that I'm going to lose my child. I had the ability to be able to do that because, mind you, I'm in her home once a week, or we're meeting out in the community and I'm seeing her. So that helping her to navigate for that and be a character witness for that was actually very helpful to be able to do. Again, here, moving forward, this is what the materials that we use in all the different words, autism, ADHD, this live binder. On the bottom is a link. This information was phenomenal. So if you go and say, hey, I want to figure out how to reach out to regional center, what does that look like? You have something in here. If you say, okay, how does it go if you want to do story time to get into a dental appointment or those type of things? When I tell you the details of it, it is great, and I'm glad they made it available for individuals to be able to see and do this on their own. We use this, myself and my colleague, in different ways to maneuver, to share with families, because it really is. How many of you guys have read something you think, I didn't get that, I had no idea what that said? I need something really simple. My mother was a nurse, and she used to always say, you know what, tell them to give me a language term, because you doctors and nurses speak in a language we don't understand, right? It's just, come on. So anyway, that's what this does, right? Which makes it really simple is, I get this, right? And it's another reason why I love and enjoy this material, because it's that. It's not complex or whatever, it's just straightforward. So we got to share this with a lot of the families, and then they got this as well, to have that tangible thing. So you can imagine, you got this tangible thing with all this information, you got this person that feels that they know a whole lot, which is me, and still learning, right? And then you have all this information to be able to maneuver. So that's part of what we did as peer coaches, is to be able to help them to do that. But when we were no longer involved, they still had this material to be able to do that. And this gives an example of what it looks like when you go to, I know it's really, really small, but you see different little categories, right? If you click on one of the categories, so say if I was explaining to the parents, I clicked on one of the categories, it gives a breakdown of either one pager, and sometimes we can either take it and print it, or a lot of people, I'm a paper person, but a lot of people are not, so now you have it visible to be able to do. So it really isn't a tool that you can use now and even going forward to share with those that are coming in. And I believe they're updating it from time to time, but I'm not quite sure. But some of the information is really still sustainable and important as we do now as far as procedure-wise. This is what it started off as, being AirB. And this is how these are all the people that helped in all these different areas to do a part of Mind the Gap. being that I'm biased, I don't think they did as well a job as we did. Don't tell them. But these were all the ones in different branches that were able to do this particular project, right? And so for that, we thank them for that. But these are our partnerships in doing that, along with the people that we have that were in the community. But these are people that have the branches per se of this particular program.
Another little reflection exercise for everyone. What tools were helpful for you when you started navigating services?
I would say I help a lot of families, and I do like searches on Facebook, on Nextdoor. I look at other families who maybe I know that have gone through this, and I start asking them. I'm instead of reinventing the wheel, I always look around the people I already know around me, and then work outward. I do a lot of Google searches.
Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of like word of mouth and hearing from other people, so that community of folks becomes really important, right? So as a parent, the best tool you had was networking.
With anybody at the school, at the daycare, at the next door, anybody that knew anything, I would pick their brain, because they always seem to have a direct way that nobody else can tell you. And they have the personal experience, and they get to what you're dealing with specifically. I found that was one of the best for me.
That's a great comment. That actually leads very nicely into what we're going to talk about next. So thank you for that. One more, yeah.
Oh, I used to go to the UCD on campus, the hospital support group for ADHD in person, and it saved my marriage.
So we've talked about Mind the Gap, right? That's kind of our big picture support that we're looking at and tool that we're using. That is available to you all online if you choose to access it. There's videos, there's worksheets in there to kind of self-pace walk through service navigation. And then at the Mind Institute, we have specifically embedded that into a number of our programs. So for today, we're going to talk about the ones that have this big circle around them. So our Family Navigator support program and our Resource Center and our support groups that we offer. You can see there in development, we have the hopefully a Mind Parent workshop with a group curriculum using Mind the Gap, as well as training in partnership with family resource centers and family empowerment centers across California to train those organizations on how to use this curriculum as well. And then finally, we have ECHO program, which I will talk about ECHO at the very end of today, but that is basically a telementoring program to build adult learning communities out in rural areas and to build networks. And we are hoping to embed Mind the Gap into that program as well. I'm going to talk about our Family Navigator program here, which is very similar and will sound a lot like the Mind the Gap's structure, because it is. So we have Family Navigator program at the Mind Institute. This is a peer mentoring program that supports families after they've had a visit in our clinic or after they've had a visit with our research programs. Parents are matched to navigators based on cultural and linguistic characteristics as much as possible. And we provide, again, that short-term 4 to 6 month support in understanding service navigation, learning to advocate, and access community supports. Program started in 2018. We're up to over 800 families now that we've supported. Our goals in the program, you see information there, so we want to provide all of that information, that chart that you all have in front of you, to go over whichever of those service systems are relevant to that family, and provide information on how to navigate it, how to access it, what the eligibility criteria is. We also want to provide information about tools and strategies that families can learn to be able to provide that ongoing advocacy, right? Because the advocacy goes beyond the 6 months that we provide support, potentially throughout a lifespan. And also to provide support. So some of you mentioned how important the community has been for you, of finding your network of people. And so we're hoping to bring together people to have that community built as well. Again, this will look exactly like the Mind the Gap program, but this is kind of a sample of what a meeting with a family navigator might look like. We do a quick check-in. Every family has their own set of goals that are co-created with their navigator. The navigator will then talk either through a Mind the Gap module or talk about other resources related to that family's goals, and then wrap up, summarize, close the meeting. If there's a homework assignment, talk about what that is and plan for the next meeting. If we have a family that has completed their goals, we also have a monitoring program, which is basically, it's a connection to the Family Navigator program over time through email, through newsletters, through invitations to participate in things like today's conference. Program outcomes, just real quickly here, we've had really high levels of satisfaction from the few people who have responded to our post surveys. Families are reporting that the peer coach made them feel supported, that peer coaches helped them access resources like special education and regional center services, as well as building confidence in navigating services and accessing social supports. So we're going to talk a little bit about our groups here. So I'll turn this over to Benita, who helps facilitate.
So these are some of our groups that I could share. The first one we'll see is where it's part of the Family Navigator. It's virtual support groups. So those who I also do this as well. I'm a Family Navigator peer coach. So what happens is that we meet every first Friday of the month, right? And so these families come in and sometimes we have topics. And some of the times what I will tell you that we've experienced, it's very organic. Those of you who have been in support, and sometimes when it's very structured, it's a little kind of hard to get through. So it's really organic to people come to think, and one of the things I say to them, if you had the wildest question, or what are the things that you think that you thought we needed answers to, or whatever the case may be, and we just kind of go with it. And there's a multitude of brilliant people that are in there from the background, from the Mind Institute, that help us to kind of help them feel supported. So it's really helpful for that group, for those people who are newly diagnosed, to come and get that. And they hear from the ones who have loved ones who are much older. So I just really enjoy helping to be part of that facilitation of that group. The other one is where it's called the PAC. So it's Parents for Adult Children. This is one by our colleague by Steve Reuter, which is really phenomenal as well, because now as you're gauging out, for us who have older ones, what's the next thing? And a lot of things that I think that I love about Steve is that he also asks people, if you don't have regional center services, that's one of the things we always ask, do you have that? What happens then, right? And you think about in general, there's a lot of people who don't have that, and what happens? So Steve is really phenomenal in grabbing and getting that resource, because it's really important. Not everybody has that or is capable of doing that. And the other one is Get Mindful. Not something I had been a part of it, but has been very successful in regards to self-compassion. So that has been really successful. I know there's a minimal amount of people that can be in that, and it's usually kind of booked. So they do it every 6 months? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's been really successful as well. Then the other one is for the one that that I'm a co-facilitator of, myself and another colleague. And it is for African American parents who have a child with a disability, even though all are welcome. We meet once a month. We do have multiple things that we meet online, then we also meet in person. We have a social media group, and then we're also starting something else that we find was very useful, not just in this community, but in all communities. Myself and my colleague are starting off with something called What's the T? And it goes to teach, engage, and advocate. Get it together. That's what happens when you have acronyms, right? You kind of forget what they are. So that's called What's the T? So the goal is to think that we had a community of people, just in general, even with my job at the Resource Center, we find that people are struggling just to get information. And we need more time than just 5 minutes and going to a group and regurgitating what's going on. And next thing you know, somebody gives you a link or what have you. So our goal is to be able to spend time with parents to get more in detail, to help them navigate through these different systems, then also to help them, to give them a direction that they can go and find those particular services and help themselves advocate. So that's kind of something we're trying to work to give back to the community, to kind of be able to do that. So it's something new that we're starting. So those are the different parent groups, and then we have a couple other ones that my colleagues will kind of go over in regards to the Spanish community.
So this is the Spanish support group set Padres para Padres, and we have more than 10 years there at the Mind Institute, where I love to work. Something that I always like to share about the Mind Institute is not only that they're looking for the cure for the autism, they're creating the resources to support the families to have a better quality of life. When we have a loved one with a diagnosis. So this is a Spanish support group. It's once a month. and it's virtual, but it has 2 events in person, one during the spring and the other one at the end of the year. And now we're going to share the family resources. So this means those resources that they're open for the public. There is no cost. You don't need insurance. This is completely for our community. So the first of those, that's the Let's Talk, Vamos a Platicar, and that's a series that it was presented for 10 years at the Mine Institute, and then we turned that into a document because we want all the families that they don't have a navigator to help them, to learn about the services and the systems and all the things that we need to learn, like Robin said, very quick. So we put that together in these documents, and also things like never share with us. Like, ask for your therapy on Wednesdays. There is no holidays on Wednesdays. So those are the tips that you're going to find in this Let's Talk. And of course, we have the Resource Center. It's open. We are open on Monday, on Tuesday, and Thursday, 10 to 4 in the afternoon. You can come, and it's better if you schedule an appointment. Like many of those services, it could be in person, via Zoom, on a call. We are there to help. We love to help, and like Benita said, that's something that we always share. That's, we try to just share 5 doors, because knocking at 15 doors, that's a lot. We don't have the time. We have a bunch of things to take responsibilities. We have a lot of other priorities, and then it's nice when we have a hand that help us and guide us where are the services and how it's easy to access or ask for services. We are here to help. We're happy to help, and so if you want to come, you can call. We are so lucky because we have Steve that he is, I always say he's the guru on transition. So he is at the Resource Center on Tuesdays. Please come, and if you're on that stage on transition to adulthood, please come and visit Steve. We also have a bunch of online resources. We have this Center for the Excellence in Developmental Disabilities. It's in Spanish, it's in English, and we also have the Facebook. I think the Mine Institute is not on Twitter, and the English part. In Spanish, we only have the Facebook, and there's information, and if you Google, that's the thing with the Google that I love, because in the past you can see how many answers you're receiving by seconds, and now you can see that anymore. I always like to show on my presentations, like autism, 1 million and this number for answers when you ask to Google, and now it's not there anymore. I don't know if that's me or it's happening. So one of the online resources that we have, and it's very helpful, is talk about the behavior. There's what we know as ABA, that's the ADEPT models, and they're in, I think, 4 languages. So, but Spanish, that is what is my business? It was present, and every Friday we meet to talk about behavior because it's very important. When there is a diagnosis, I mean, the behavior is in every one of us. We all have behaviors, so that's what is important to learn about behaviors. I'm sure that you know that the behavior therapy, it was created and tested and approved for the autism, but it's so good that the regional center approved this therapy for other diagnoses. So it's very important to learn about behavior to help our child that they have challenges with the behavior.
Alrighty, so just a little history on ADEPT and to kind of explain in a little more detail about it. So this was a project that was developed in collaboration with one of our local school districts, as well as some of the parent organizations. Each module, so there's 2 modules. The first one talks through skills building and how to teach skills, and this is really geared towards teaching skills at home or skills that many families would want to teach their loved one. The second portion is about behavior management or addressing challenging behaviors, also in a way that families or people could use within a family system. They are broken down into 10 little segments each, and there's worksheets attached to them and different resources attached to each one of those. I will say this was created about 10 years ago, and language has evolved since then. We do have a little disclaimer, and we are in the process of updating this. So if you do go into this, there may be some language that is a little outdated. So just be aware of that, but the message and the understanding and the knowledge in there is still the same.
This is another wonderful resource. This was created on the 2018 when we received a grant from the DDS to create these videos here. And they're for the African American community and they're for the Spanish speaking community. And the way I can describe this the best is that it's the chat that you say, I want this parent to talk with this new family. So all those answers, all those questions, we put here families that they have been successful navigating the system. So that's why we share the journey. That's what is sharing our journey, the name of these videos, because that was the success of the families, and that's what we want to share. We, too many bad things happen all the time, but we want to share the good things. So if you have the chance, please review these videos. You're gonna learn from families, professionals, on how they have solved the way to the services that talk this, those challenges, the waiting lists, and all the things that happen when we are in this world of the disability. And the next one is Colaboración Latina, California. This is something that is almost 3 years now, and this is around all along California. All these agencies are part of this Colaboración Latina California, and what we do is share the knowledge, share all the knowledge that it's hard to find a place. So what we do is we share an email every Friday to the families, of course, in Spanish, so they can access, they have the information to attend the workshops, to learn about income support services, social security, special education, all the topics that it's not easy to learn in a workshop that lasts 2 hours. We are not going to learn. We need a lot of hours, a lot of investment to learn how to navigate the system, and that's what we do with the Colaboración Latina California. Another thing that we do during the year is this presentation for the community, and that's to talk about this year. The topic will be how are the services, what services are available, and have to have access to them. It's going to be a long presentation, 2 hours presentation. There is no way to make it easier, but disability rights in regional center, DDS, the state council, so people who knows what's going on with our community, because now they have those teams. They put together this knowledge to share with our community. And finally, that's the conference in Spanish, the Mind Institute Conference, Aprendiendo Juntos, Learning Together. And this is going to be on September, Saturday 20, and that's open for anyone who wants to learn about developmental disabilities in Spanish. And then Robin is going to talk about this conference.
Yeah, so the other conference, you guys are all here. So this is our other conference that we offer every year. So lots of different ways for the community to engage with the Mind Institute. We do have some programs that are internal, like the Family Navigator program, to Mind research patient and clinic patients. But all of these other programs and supports are available to the community. So our groups, our resource center, and our conferences are all open to the community. And then finally, we have Project Echo, which also we're hoping to use the Mind the Gap curriculum to embed in Project Echo at some point in the future. But right now, these are the two Echo programs that we have running. The one in Spanish is open to the community, and it's focused on 6 to 12 years old right now. The upcoming Echo in English will be evidence-based practices for supporting autistic students. Echo is a interactive telementoring program. So it's a group of people who come together to talk about specific topics, and it follows an all teach, all learn model where everybody's voice is valued, everybody's input is valued. We do talk through cases, so we have kind of that application of knowledge as well as having a short little lecture or talk during those Echo sessions. Almost all of these programs that we've talked about are available at no cost. Of course, the conferences do have a fee associated with them in order to be able to maintain them, but the rest of these, for the most part, have no cost associated with them. So we would hope and love to see all of you at a future event. And then just to kind of wrap up here, in terms of lessons learned and kind of things that we've understood through this process, I will say for me personally, working with Family Navigator and working with these amazing women here has been a huge growth process, and learning from families and learning from the community. So I think, as much as I help support, I also gain back. But really, the key piece, I think, for me is individualizing recommendations, so making sure that those supports are specific to what that family needs, right? Not every family needs all the things. Not every family may want all the things. And making sure, as Benita said in the beginning, that that's explained in a way that a family can understand. We do have our alphabet soup in this field, as every profession does, but making sure that information is provided in a very tangible, understandable, practical kind of way.
Yeah, I guess we all learn together, and I just love the part that, they organize. I think it was Sarah who mentioned that. That was amazing. That I think the big part of, make it easier, because it's not, we don't know if we're going to be successful, but make it easier is organize. It's hard. We all have a bunch of things to do, but I always start with a box. All the papers from your kid, place it in a box, and then keep it there, so you don't have to look all over the house. You just have to look in that box. That was my starting, and that was very helpful for me. And I think that's a great start, because we always say, I'm going to place it here, because I know it's here. And then when we think, what is it? We don't have any idea. So just, a drawer, a box, something to put there. That's very helpful. That removes a lot, tons of stress. So just let's practice.
The UC Davis Mind Institute was founded in 1998 with the promise to reduce and prevent the disabilities that can be associated with autism and other neurodevelopmental conditions. Every day, our clinicians and researchers make progress on that promise. Our groundbreaking research on autism, Fragile X syndrome, chromosome 22q11.2 deletion syndrome, ADHD, and other conditions associated with disability are helping affected individuals achieve their fullest potential. Please visit our website or our social media platforms to find out more about current studies, upcoming events, and how you can help make a difference.